Everyone, welcome to Ask an Agent. We're going to start doing this on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. And whether you're following us or interacting with us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, I should be able to see all your comments. Just make sure if you have any questions, this is your time. Use it. Put your questions into the messages. I will definitely try to answer anything I can. I'm assuming that it's going to go a little bit slower at the beginning. Those of you who've followed Talent Direct for a while, we had our social media hacked about 6 weeks ago, and are trying to rebuild that, which affected Facebook and Instagram specifically. Would not hope nobody else ever has to go through that, because that was quite traumatizing. But we're slowly building it back up. Basically, I'm going to kind of start a topic every Wednesday just to get the conversation going. But again, this is your time. There are no such things as stupid questions. I'll try to answer everything that I can. I'm seeing some people chime in, so thank you. Welcome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you like this session or any of our following sessions, just make sure you follow us everywhere. We are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel that we're just starting to build out as well. You can see a lot of our talent work there as well. And anything that we feel is, appropriate to post or is something that we think people can benefit from. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So today's topic is, what are agents looking for? We get this a lot, especially, new talent specifically that are calling in and asking, what is it that I can do to submit or to possibly be represented by you or anyone else. And I think there's really not still like a general hub for that kind of talent information. And I think it's also not the best time for an individual over the phone to go over every single time what an agency is looking for. That's really not the best use of our time. But I'm going to go ahead and do this here so that I can reach as many people as possible. And hopefully you can share this information with other people. So that your approach can strengthen when you come into an agency situation and try to submit for representation. So what are we looking for? How do we want to be talked to? How do we want you to submit? Every agency is going to be different in their format. You probably will find information on how you should submit to an agency on their website. They may either give you, like a box to submit to, an email. It should usually have instructions on what they want to see and how they want to see it. But I think as a talent, you just have to kind of, at least do a little bit of homework when it comes to, what does talent look like? We get a lot of, hi, this is Grandpa so-and-so, and my grandson is just the cutest thing on this planet. We get stopped everywhere all the time, blah, blah, blah. We hear that a lot. That's really great, but that doesn't make that person specifically a marketable talent for us. So I'm going to go over the different categories, just very, very general. Obviously, there are a lot more subcategories like, voiceover talent, or maybe parts modeling, or even plus size modeling, that are specific categories. I'm just going to go in the brackets of commercial, film and TV, kids, and modeling in general. So if anybody has any specific questions, make sure, again, put them in the chat. Happy to go over it. I'm just going to make sure everything is up and running. It looks like it. All right, great. So commercial talent submissions. We're in the state of Florida. We're an 80% commercial state. Commercial and print work is very important to us as agencies here. Wish we had way more film than we do right now, but current state of affairs is just not where it's at. So I would say 80% of our work is commercial and print. What we want to see from a commercial talent submission, first of all, please submit through the website. That's what it's asking you to do. There's a submit tab. Again, read the instructions. It tells you exactly what we need to look at. We usually get back to talent within 14 days, and we do invite them in then at that point for a meeting to meet them and make sure that, this is what we want to engage, that it's a relationship that we want to pursue. For our commercial talent, we want to see headshots. We want to see print images. We want to see what your abilities are. Especially Florida, we have a lot of, for example, fitness stuff that comes through here and other things. Want to see, maybe you're a nutritionist on the side. Maybe you are an instructor. Maybe, you run a horse ranch or whatever. There could be all different things that we could use you for. that's something that we kind of figure out in that initial communication and conversation. And obviously, as we progress into it, we actually just had a talent yesterday that has been with us for quite some time. I didn't know he's a certified fitness instructor. Like that's something kind of important that should have been shared a while ago, because we can certainly use that for procuring work. It's very important to let us know what languages you speak. Make sure that you speak those languages as a native. Being a partial French speaker with a very American accent, and maybe your vocabulary is like 25 words. That doesn't make you a French speaker. So just have to be aware that you need to really be able to do this as a professional, as a skilled um, uh, you know proficiency. So what are your abilities? Copy of your resume. And then actually I like to usually ask our talent too, like what is, if they have another job or a real job or a full-time job, as we're engaging into a relationship with our talent, we obviously have to make sure that this works. Agencies get paid on commission only. So if you are only available 10 days a year on very specific days, that is probably not a relationship that we would be interested in pursuing, because what is the point taking on somebody just for one job a year or two jobs a year? It just doesn't make sense. It's not the best use of our time. So we tend to shy away from that. So I've got a couple questions, and let me just read them real quick. I have an agent and a manager from LA, and it's interesting to me. I'm in Texas. Can managers represent out of state? You know what? That's actually a good question, Remy. I don't think that there's any reason that they couldn't represent out of state. I think that as long as they let you know which states they're submitting in and they actually have relationships in those states, you should be fine. Managers adhere to a little bit different set of rules and agencies too. So we can only basically operate in a state that we're in. But if castings, come through from LA and it's sent to Florida, that is certainly not a problem. So I don't see any reason why a manager should not be able to submit you out of state. But we're not super proficient with management, just because we really don't work with a lot of managers, and it's not something that we've actively pursued. I do have a couple of people that I work with, and they've procured amazing talent for us. So it's not that about it. It should not be an issue at all. If anybody else has any questions, put them in the comments. I'm happy to go over them. Okay. So that is for commercial talent. Again, want to see headshots, print images if you have them. Want to make sure there's some full bodies in there. What categories can you work? What are you interested in? What is your area of expertise that maybe we can highlight and work with? Make sure you have updated resume. Obviously, especially out of state, a lot of times agencies would prefer you not put all of your commercial listings on there, especially if if there's no longer an exclusivity issue with them, or if it just really doesn't add to the pot. I think for our state, we just want to see if you have worked. So you don't need to list everything. We just want to make sure there's a resume. Again, we're so heavily commercial and print. We just want to make sure we're dealing with experienced talent if that's how we're submitting you. What languages do you speak? What are your abilities? And then for us, I'd like to just kind of know what you really do in real life, just because sometimes we can use that. You just never know. I'm going to go ahead and move on to film talent. And I just had another beep come in. So, all right, we're going to go on with film talent. Again, so film is like this whole different business. For our agency, we only sign exclusive for film representation. All the major states, I think, are working that way anyway. We have a dedicated film agent. She's very specific with how she wants to see her submissions. You have to do a monologue read for her. Obviously, you set an appointment, you have to show your headshot, your real copies of your work, training, resume. Again, with film too, I think it's very important to state if you have any licenses like truck driving or boat licenses and so on. I think too with film, it's very, very important that what kind of work you would like to pursue, and you communicate that with your agent. Film work is so much harder to book than commercial work. A lot of it depends on looks, lots of training, the work that you already have. And I think especially now that everything is so digital, you can really book film anywhere. We obviously do not have too much film in Florida. It's picked up quite a bit. They're just not, major projects for the most part. So we are really looking for specific skill sets and really have to match our submissions to the client needs. Where commercial, I think you have a little bit more leeway of taken various people in consideration. Where film, it's very specific. We want to see training, lots and lots of training. We have a school down here at University of Miami that does a really good job with putting together short films and reels and engages the local community in these projects. I don't believe that they're usually paid, but the content that you get out of it is amazing, for submission, for us to actually submit to our clients as well. If you don't have the opportunity to book major film work, those are usually the routes I'd like to see you go. We want to see you engaged in the local community. We love people that come from the theater world. Usually they have tons of training. They're always able to tone it down where, sometimes it's harder from film to cross over to Broadway just because it has to go up so much. But that's kind of really what we want to see. We want to see consistent training too. And I don't think there's any actor that just stops learning that's pursuing a career in film and television. So that's something that we really just want to see. We want to know what you're doing. Even with the talent that already signed with us, they update us constantly. Hey, I'm taking this class with this person. Hey, I'm doing actually this short film over here, doing this over there. We want to see that engagement. And again, I think that's where social media comes in a little bit too. If you have social media as an actor, you want to make sure you constantly update that. Let us know what's going on, what you're doing. Let the world know what you're doing. It's a really great platform to showcase your ability and your interest and your hard work. Okay, I had a couple more questions coming in. So, what are the benefits of being exclusive with an agent? I actually am going to cover that in a minute. It's in my questions that I'm going to go over. Similar question: do you consider talent that can work as local hire and lives and works around the Southeast? That's actually a good question, Luna. When it comes to work as local hire, a lot of times there are stipulations that are not put on there by us. For example, if this is a union project, they're very specific with what is considered local hire. They have to pay for it if you come out of a certain mileage range. I believe it's still 500 and over. So even though you may be willing to work as a local hire, if this is under a union work local hire contract, you can't just pretend to be a local hire. That means really local hire only. Even if you're willing to pay your own way, that is just not how it works. We do submit talent out of state, quite a bit actually, because we have clients that are out of state or out of the country, especially being in Florida. We can go in any direction, also into Latin America. So that would obviously, if they're willing to fly someone anyway, it doesn't matter if they're flying them from Miami, if they're flying them from Orlando, if they're flying them from Atlanta. So we should have leeway with that. But that is something, again, that we have to communicate with the client. We actually have a young lady that we just signed out of Tennessee, and she's been doing amazing right off the bat with the agency. So we let our clients know, hey, she is available, but that's where she lives. So that everybody's in the same boat when it comes to flight arrangements, travel arrangements, and the fact that obviously she can't just drive over in an hour. So that's something that we just have to communicate properly. I get many auditions, but never get booked. I have new headshots. What can you advise? Maybe that's Remy. Maybe that's something where you need to go to your agent and ask if there's anything you need to do. I would maybe ask for a submission report if they do pull them. Not every agency does those, and go over it or look at what you're being submitted for and see if you can get any feedback. Or maybe the way you see yourself and or maybe that an agent sees you and submitting for the roles that you're going for. Maybe you can find out who actually books them and compare and just see that the world sees you as you see you. We have that happen a lot actually when we take on new talent. We will submit them and then 3 months later kind of if there's not a lot of traction, we will look at what's being submitted, what roles are they being submitted to, and see if we can figure out, if the things that are working better maybe are 5 years younger or older. Maybe we need to look at hairstyles. Maybe it's just the way that you're taping, especially I'm assuming you're in the same boat right now where everything is digital. Maybe you need a better tape setup or different lighting or whatever, but that's really a conversation that you should have with your agent. But that would be my suggestions to look at first, is just to make sure everything is done properly and that everyone else sees you how you see you. There are a lot of times we'll find that there need to be some tweaks and changes need to be made. Okay, Catherine. Hi, Catherine. All right, cool. So I'm gonna go now just to kids real quick, only because that's like its own complete animal. So for kids submissions, obviously most of the children that we get in are new. We, we want them to submit at least clean digital pictures. Make sure the stats are on there. Anything that you submit can't be older. I mean, if it's a digital, it honestly shouldn't be older than a couple of weeks old. They're clear, they're daytime, make sure no obstructions. Sometimes I'll get a kid with 5 different pairs of sunglasses, a hat, and something else, like all these accessories and whatever. I actually can't even see what the child looks like because everything is covered. Gotta make sure is that you show the child exactly as it is. I would do, honestly, put some bright clothing on, not too many patterns, like just put them against the white wall and take a picture. And that gives us a good idea what they look like. Be aware, I have children. There was at some point, I think one of my kids had like 7 teeth missing at the same time. Well, that's really hard to book. Maybe that would not be the best time to submit. Maybe wait till their teeth grow back in, or at least for the most part, and then we can take a look at that again when I'm, let us know what kind of hobbies they have. And what's I think that's really, really important is who takes them to the casting. Who is the main contact person that is going to be communicating with us on castings, callbacks, updates, size updates. There has to be somebody that actually has that in their schedule or has a flexible work life or caretaker life that they have the ability to work with their children. It's a lot of work if you're doing it right, and you have to have a certain amount of flexibility. You know, when you have your child signed by an agency. For models, next point, same thing. We want to see, obviously your stats, portfolio pictures. Where do you reside? Are you here only part time, or are you traveling, around various places? Are you here for 3 months? Do you actually live here permanently? Again, if they have another job, we'd like to know. Um, with modeling specifically too, as you submit, just make sure you know at least the basic parameters of being a model. And my dogs just got out of the room. I locked them up. Um, if you are a 5'7" male talent that wants to get into the modeling world, that's really tough. It's probably unrealistic. Most of the men, usually 5'10" and over. Women are 5'7" and over. That's really what we want to see. It's maybe if you're a little bit shorter than the height that's required, try more for commercial print. That would probably be a category. And I think in general with these submissions, and I'm so sorry, my dogs are drinking water. I really did have them locked away. Be aware of what the industry needs. Take a look at the agency website and see what kind of talent is represented on there, and see if that's even a good match for you. I think with agencies in general, you can find out a lot about what they do and who they work with and the clients they represent and the type of work that they offer by just looking at their website, at their social media, the kind of talent that needs to be submitted. Instagram usually is a very good place to just see the work that agency procures. And so if this doesn't really align with what you want to do, then maybe that's not the right agency to go to. So I'm actually going to go now, and thank you for bringing it up, Christina. I'm going to go into exclusivity. So for our agency specifically now, this is not for everyone. For our agency specifically, we are film exclusive, and we do also have a very large exclusive roster. These are talent that we believe that we can grow with for a long period of time, that also from the beginning need a lot of agent help and work, and not because they're not talented, just to kind of package this all out. And it's it's almost like a relationship. I mean, you really like, we know who they are, we know what they're doing, we know the kind of effort they put into their training. It's a very hands-on, great relation. I mean, that's just my favorite kind of relationship to be in when it comes to working with talent. We do also represent non-exclusive talent. Those are mainly commercial and print, and usually already have existing agencies in the state. But we are not big fans of multi-listing. So if a new talent comes in and they're like, "Hey, I'm already with these 5 agencies," we respectfully decline. Do we think we can work with them? Probably. Do I think I want to be agency number 6 and put a whole lot of effort into that talent? Not really. It doesn't make sense. And that's just how we have chosen to do ours. We've got a very great curated talent group that we love working with, that I can fully stand behind. And I feel like that is just where this is all going anyway. We're the only state that's a major, talent state that isn't fully exclusive. Georgia is, New York is, California is, and I believe, in my opinion, that for the most part, Florida should be too, unless these are just hobby talent, and that's just has its own purpose, and that's totally fine. It's just for us, we really want to continue engaging in the exclusive. We really want to know, we want to know our talent. We want to work with them. We want to grow with them. We want them to grow with us. And that's a different kind of relationship that we're asking for. And we spend a lot of time on that relationship. Let me just see some more questions. From your personal experience, do managers help actors get more work? If I sign with the LA manager, does that mean I would have to travel for each audition? Again, that I think the manager wouldn't dictate how the auditions are done. I'm assuming that LA is the same as here. We're about 90% virtual auditions right now. I'm assuming that every other state is the same way. Some of the callbacks are in person, and then some initial auditions may be in person. But we know where our direct book talent is also. So if they're from out of state, obviously we let the client know direct only. You can audition them via self-tape, and then the callback would have to happen via Zoom or some other digital format. So that's just something that you would have to discuss with that manager to make sure that they're set up for it. But I'm assuming that the casting offices are just the same as here, where most of it has gone to virtual at this point in time. All right, so let me actually reverse this now. What to expect as a talent from your agent? I just want to go over that quickly. We love talent that communicates with us digitally, but also make sure that when they do communicate, they actually have something to say. So checking in is totally fine. But I think when it comes from our communication to you, you obviously want to know what we're doing on your behalf. For us, we always try to let you know what you're being submitted for. If we think that you should upgrade your pictures, or hey, you know what, you actually don't quite look in this last tape as I see your headshot reflecting you, so maybe do an update there. We have become a lot more firm, especially since the pandemic started, with digital material. Your headshots have to be updated. You have to look like what a client would expect you to look like from your headshot submission. You need to have a reel, you need to have something or other, whether it's even like we just added slate shots to the profiles of the talent, so that you can at least get a feel for what this person comes across like on camera, and with just what they sound like, what they look like when they're speaking. But you really have to update and upgrade anything that's a digital representation of you, whether it's your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, your website, anywhere that you show up, that needs to be updated consistently. I think that our talent that do this are the ones that are requested the most. I mean, at the end of the day, my job is to get you working, and your job is to make sure that client keeps asking for you to come back. So talent that look like they should, how they're supposed to look, and that act like how they're supposed to act, and have all the proper materials. It's a no-brainer. They're just easy to work with. They make my life easier. I make the client's life easier. And at the end of the day, this is a situation that we all want to continue, to support and have them come back over and over and over. I mean, that's our job. Sorry, that's something else just beeped in here. I think from your end, you need to have proper communication from your agent. You need to be told, whether it's personally, or I think that now with all these platforms, or Zoom or whatever, there are so many ways for us to communicate with you. I think there's really no reason not to communicate properly. If you have a question, and just again, if we're crazy busy, and we've had those weeks where literally I have to tell people, I'm so sorry, I don't even have headspace right now to go over this stuff. But you know what? Saturday or Sunday, or even, and that's us, but like Monday, Tuesday next week, let's set a time, and we'll go over your materials. I'll go over your questions. I'll pick pictures, whatever. But when we already have 16-hour workdays, sometimes that is not the first thing we can do. Just be patient. But if you feel like this drags into a long period of time and you're not hearing, then maybe that's something that you need to reflect on and see if that's the best relationship for you to be in. But again, make sure that you do the work and you're doing all your portion of it, because there's really no point for me to go over anything if there's nothing new to go over. But that's really, I think, what should be your expectation. We try to be very hands-on with, we think, why don't you add some fitness, or why don't you add these kind of pictures, or why don't you update this, or maybe the super blonde hair isn't working right now, or, and this is usually constructive criticism that we give to talent. And really, this is something that just, you need to understand. The agency life it's a business life. We only make money when you book. So for us to spend our time on anything outside of this process, it really needs to be beneficial to everyone. It doesn't work if I constantly pick your new pictures, but then you actually don't go to the castings, or you don't give me the self tapes, or you don't update your resume. Well, what's the point then? And if we have this conversation repeatedly, at some point I will just choose to not continue engaging in that relationship, because it's going to be very one-sided. For us too, we want to see our talent grow. That's been a big, big, big driver for us since the beginning. So if I feel like someone is just very stagnant and really doesn't want to put a lot of effort into growing, I think that gets me less excited about that talent. And what's the point really if they're not willing to move forward, or pictures are 3 years or 5 years, old and older, and there are all these reasons why they can't get them done. At the end of the day, I can't push that. I can't send someone to my client if they don't look the way they look in their pictures. There's no point. And then that kind of severs that relationship. And it's not because I don't like them personally, or because it's a business decision. Move on, move forward, and then focus on the next person that is willing to put the time into their career. And this is really what this is. I think being a talent is your name LLC. I tell that to my talent all the time in every meeting. It is you LLC. I mean, what you make out of it, and we're here, we're giving you the tools, and we'll put you out there. But at the end of the day, it's your work. So that's that. This is helpful. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm putting together my application and can't wait. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Millie. All right, let me just see if I have some other stuff I wanted to. Okay, how do we want to see you interact and grow? So we do love check-ins. Obviously, we have some talent that are into theater, or we just booked a couple talent for a life experience in Miami. They invite us to come along when we can. We do want to see that interaction. If it has anything to do with the agency, tag us on social media. We're big, big, big proponents of putting our talent out there. If you look on our Instagram, it's not so much about TDA or any one of our agents or our day-to-day business life. I mean, we're working remotely now anyway. You see this, I'm in my former breakfast nook, but we're really into pushing our talent and getting your story out there and the things you're doing, and that's what it's all about. So tag us. Send us pieces of the work that we've booked you for, so we can promote you. But at the end of the day, it's how do you interact? You want to make sure you let us know if something cool is going on, if you're starting a new class, feedback on a class. Will I send you like long summaries back if we're busy? Probably not, but you know what, it's an not okay, you know what, is going to this class, great, growing, doing something, so happy. Okay. The ultimate thing for us is to watch you grow, because you'll get bigger jobs. And that's what this is all about, in my opinion. It's the whole path. What is the best way to stay in touch with us? Like I said, check in. Our agents happen to be very hands-on, so people can usually text us, email us. Please don't, ask real questions on LinkedIn, or like if you're already with us. If you already have a direct channel of communication with your agent, don't go on LinkedIn and ask me a question on there, unless it's about something that's not, about your job tomorrow. If it's something that we posted or we're supporting, or that you would like to share with us, obviously, and if it's on that platform, go ahead. But ideally, email is always the best way. Email, I would say, then phone call, then text. But I'm a big avid texter. I have 3 children. There's always noise. I have dogs. There's always something going on. So just texting me is totally fine. I think, especially since the pandemic, that's just a way for us to reach massively people without having to worry about background noise. How often should you update your pictures and your general information? Now, this is what I've already said earlier. You really need to look like what you say that you look like. So your pictures need to be updated. You can't have any major changes. If you have black hair and dye your hair blonde, that should reflect immediately on your profiles. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to explain to a client, hey, sorry, they just completely changed their look. Thank you for booking them, but now they don't. If we had somebody booked for a major shoe campaign, and he shaved his dreadlocks off, and that was, I think, part of the reason why they booked him to begin with. Had a really, really cool, edgy look, and it was gone, and didn't even update us for that. I think that was 2 months later, and that is crazy, because it makes us look bad, it makes the agency look bad, makes you look bad. Like, update us if something changes. Two, with sizing your all your profiles, casting networks. We use Casting Workbook as well, and also our agency software should always have your most updated sizes. Especially with the pandemic at the beginning, gyms closing, a lot of people gained a little bit of weight, and that, it is what it is. We can't hide that. By the time you show up on set, if you're no longer a size 6, now you're a size 8 or 10, and they pulled a wardrobe for you according to the specs that we gave them. I don't know if you've ever worn like a pair of pants that's too tight for 8 hours. It's not comfortable and doesn't look good. So this is just something that you need to constantly update and be aware of. I think I think that's self-explanatory. Update your stuff. How often should you update? Okay, what do you need to have at home? Okay, let's go over this real quick. Because this is so digital now, I think everybody should have a self-tape set up at home. I think you're hugely missing out if you don't have it. Make sure it's the right color backdrop. Make sure lighting is okay, and that you know what you're doing. I feel like most of our talent have done an amazing job now doing the tapes from home. They've changed quite a bit from. I remember in April, I think when we first reopened, and we were all trying to figure out Zoom, and especially some of our older talent had to like really figure out how to do all these digital things. And we did so many practice runs, just working people through like a Zoom callback, making sure that they knew how to log in and whatnot. It's kind of a crazy time, but it was also, I feel like it was definitely a time of huge growth as a group of people, as everybody's just learning how to do all these new things. And that's definitely, I feel like, leveled out a little bit now. But just make sure you have everything at home. So you have to have your backdrop, some kind of ring light, a pod or something to put your camera on. And most of these now you can do straight from your iPhone. I don't even really think you need a camera if this is for film. Obviously, if you need a reader, if you need coaching, you should always, have your network of people that you can work with. But our agency, we actually have lists of people we recommend. There, none of our talent are certainly limited to those lists. It's just when you're in a bind and you need somebody in Jupiter, or you need somebody in Homestead or Miami or whatever, at least we have a list to kind of get started with so that you can call on people to help you. Um, Again, I said this earlier, it's our job to make our clients' job easy. And I think it's your job just as well to just be easy to work with. That doesn't mean that you have to accept any and all and whatnot. It just means, just be there, be on time, um, make sure that you do the things that you're supposed to do, and just be easy to work with. Because when we have last minute bookings, or if it's between two people and some, maybe one, and they ask us our opinion, and then maybe one I've had a couple of hiccups with, and one I know for sure, always there 5 minutes early or whatever, prepared, ready to go. I mean, it's not an easy, I mean, it's not a hard pick when I just know one is going to have zero headaches and the other one I'm just sometimes not quite sure about. So just kind of think of, how you reflect yourself to your agent or anybody else that you work with. Plus, it's a small community. Everybody knows everybody. So if something happens on a set, we probably hear about it, or they talk about it, or that person's in another set and already had experience with this talent and was like, yeah, maybe not that one. So just remember that it's a relationship business. Everyone knows everyone. Just, go out there with your best foot forward always. Couple of things real quick too on the submissions, just because that's what the topic originally was. We get a lot of submissions that are literally just a picture, like an email that you can't even decipher what the person's name is, and a picture. That would be the equivalent to driving all the way to an agency, opening the door and throwing a picture in a room and shutting the door again. No name, no stats, no ability. I'm going to tell you what I do with those pictures: delete, like super fast, delete. Make sure that when you submit, give us a little bit, if you don't have a cover letter, like give us a little bit about yourself. Make sure you put this all together. Don't send it in 19 emails, one with a picture, one with a resume, one, like sit down somewhere. If you don't have a computer or whatever, borrow someone's, like take your time and think of this as a job application. Like I think when I just get pieces of something, I literally don't even spend any more time on it, because if you treat the submission that way, how would I ever consider you for something where you actually have to look at a script, or you have to look at 20 steps of instructions of how they want to receive your self tape? I just don't think it's the best format. Take the time, look at what that agency does, see if there's anything you can connect with, maybe see, who works there. If it's an agency, like for example, we have we support 3 different charity organizations, one to do with children, one to do with animals, whatnot. Maybe there's somewhere you can connect. I mean, like just give it a second, like actually research this, look at it, submit properly, take your time. Nobody will get ever picked from a one picture submission with no other commentary. It just doesn't work that way. I'm gonna take a couple more questions. Renee, I created a website for my acting this year and update it regularly. Is there anything specific you'd like to see on social media pages and websites? So if this is your acting website, definitely want to make sure, number one, it correlates with your name somehow, so that we can, when somebody Googles you, they can find you. You definitely want to have an intro, your resume, your pictures, and this is not in that order. I would have to actually look at one. So I guess we'll do intro, resume, on the next tab, pictures, and then contact us and make sure that you also have agency representation if you have it listed on your website. I hear sometimes, and this is actually a good question, Renee, because I hear sometimes like, well, what if I just book it directly? I skip this and that. And I'm like, when you book stuff direct, we actually had, and I tell this story a lot. We had a girl that was supposed to be booked for a humongo yogurt company international shoot, a lot of money. Apparently, she did a social media post, and then she got paid 150 bucks for some other yogurt company that's a competitor. They went on her Instagram, they saw it, and she lost the job. I think that, and we've had a couple of things like that over the years where I'm like, wow, I think that sometimes tying in your agent, not sometimes, anytime that you tie in your agent and they know what they're doing, they will guide you correctly. um, you can lose big deals with exclusive that have exclusivity clauses by doing something direct and trying to bypass and just not knowing what you're doing, or you're signing a release and you don't understand the terms. um, I think that you're just always better off having somebody that's up for a living look over your contracts. But Rainey, I hope that helps. So yeah, I would say, intro, resume, pictures. I would actually also have, like, if you do anything like an about or contact me or whatever, make sure that if you have any other links or Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anything else, make sure that's listed on there. They can find you if you're somebody that's into charity or as other causes that you support. Just make sure that it goes along with our industry, in a sense that, if somebody is really, really heavily political, for example, that might deter a client from booking you. If you're okay with that, then that's fine. But if you want to book across the board, then maybe have another separate, website / social media set up that goes into these other heavy causes. And this could be all this. I just picked political because obviously that was kind of a big thing this last year. But if you have really, really strong opinions on things, and that this may upset maybe a lot of other people, definitely you're entitled to those opinions, but maybe separate that from your acting platform, unless you're building those together and that's what you're going into. Okay. So if anybody, my dog's again making an appearance. If you have any other questions, we're going to obviously let this live. I'm going to watch for the next week just on this one and see if any questions come up. I'll try to answer them via social. We're doing another one next Wednesday. You will also see some guest appearances in the next few ones. So we're really excited. Hopefully this works for everyone. Any feedback is appreciated. This is the first time I've used Restream. So I'm just glad that it kind of shows it everywhere. And, if you have any feedback, like I said, let us know. And we're happy to go over questions. If you have any questions in general, I'll look at it and, we'll try to bring it up on the next one. But I feel like this is such a better way to get just different questions, maybe things you haven't even thought about. And I think a lot of times have the same need for information, all of us. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week. Now, if I just would know how to turn this thing off. Okay. Bye.